Hello. In this video, I will do a GED. Um, I will do a GED math video regarding negative numbers. Okay. So the rules are a little bit, the rules are different, when you are adding or multiplying negative numbers. So before we start, the problems, I want you to, write this on your notes because, it'll come up again, right? So the first rule when you're dealing with negative numbers. So I'll call it rule one. So I'm going to read it out loud, then I'm going to write it. Adding or subtracting negative numbers. What I would do is use the money scenario. So when you're adding or subtracting negative numbers, that's not the same as multiplying or dividing. Just think of it. I always tell my students, just think of the money scenario. A positive sign means how much money you have, and a negative sign means how much money you owe. Okay. So yeah, let me write that down. Okay. So yeah, so when you're adding, subtracting negative numbers, you could use the money scenarios. Positive sign means how much money you have, and a negative sign means how much you owe. And also, very important, if you ever see something like this where you have two minuses, so you might have a minus, or a minus and then a parentheses minus, that's the same thing as this. Did you know that when you have two minuses, it becomes positive? So that's something very important. Okay. And then the rule is slightly different when you're multiplying and dividing negatives. So let me go over the rules. So yeah, so let me go over the rules. So when you're multiplying, so multiplication, when you're multiplying two negatives, it becomes a positive. When you're multiplying a positive times a negative, that equals to a negative. When you're multiplying a positive times a positive, that becomes positive. And when you're multiplying a negative times a positive, it becomes a negative. Okay, it's the same rule for division. When you're dividing by when you're dividing a negative over a negative, it becomes a positive. When you're dividing a positive over a positive, it becomes a positive. When you're dividing a negative over a positive, that equals negative. And when you're dividing a positive over a negative, equals a negative. Okay, so Yeah, those are the rules. Go ahead and copy that down. And once you have copied, if you need to pause it, that's fine. But I have to move on. So go ahead and pause the video to write these rules down because we were going to use these rules now. Okay. So the good news is there's only like 10 questions. So this one, question one. So also, when you're doing the GED, you do have access to a calculator. So that is one pro when you're doing the GED. You do have you have an access to calculator. So if you're not really sure, just put in the calculator. So 5 plus 8, that's pretty simple. 5 plus 8 or 8 plus 5 is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You don't need a calculator for that one, right? You could just do that in your head. So yeah, 5 plus 8 is 13. I pause. Yeah. Okay, so this one's a little bit trickier than the first one. So we have a -4 plus a -8. So you gotta ask yourself, are we adding and subtracting negatives, or are we multiplying or dividing negatives? We are technically adding and subtracting negative numbers. So when you do this, you have to think you could use the money scenario. So a -4 means you owe someone, and then you also have a -8. Um, don't be stressed out on this plus. Did you also know, I probably will confuse you even more, but did you also know you can rewrite this as -4 minus 8? I don't know if that helps, but this doesn't really mean anything. But just use the money scenario. We said that a minus means you owe someone, and a positive means it's how much you have, right? So pretend you owe someone $4, and then you owe another person $8, right? How much do you have, or how much do you owe? You owe someone $4 and you owe another person $8. You don't have any of your own money, so you're still in the negative, right? So -4 and a -8 is -12. Yes, -12. See? Now, you could put this in the calculator if you're not sure on, yeah, so the correct answer is -12. Okay. Question three, we have -4 plus 8. So a minus, this is still technically adding, subtracting negative numbers. Um, yeah, so you have a -4 plus 8. So pretend you owe someone $4 and then you have $8 of your own money. So this is really the same thing as 8 minus 4, right? You can rearrange this. So you owe someone $4, you have $8 of your own money. How much do you have, or how much do you owe? Yes, you have $4 left. That is your own money. That is how much you have left over, right? You're not in the negative, right? You have $8 of your own money. You owe someone $4. You have a total of $4 now. Hey, question four. We have -14 plus 9. It's also a money scenario, so this is not multiplying or adding. This is not multiplying and dividing negatives. It's adding and subtracting negatives. So we have -14 plus 9. So minus means you owe, 9 positive means that's how much you have. So you owe someone $14, and then you have $9 of your own money. So you got to ask yourself, is this going to be a positive or negative outcome? So that's always the tricky part. Is it going to be positive or negative? So you owe someone $14, but you have $9 of your own money. You're going to be definitely in the negative. You're in a deficit, right? You owe someone $14, but you only have $9 in your bank account. So it's minus, and then it's just subtraction. So what's 14 minus 9? 10, 11, 12, 13, 5. Okay, so it's negative 5. Now, when you do this on an exam, if you forget the rules, just put this in the calculator, negative 14 plus 9. I would put it exactly in the calculator, and it should come out negative 5. Okay, question 5. We have negative 6 minus 3. Um, so this is definitely still adding, subtracting negative numbers. So what is so special about this problem? You have two minuses. So if you go back to your notes, we said that if you have two minuses, or if you have a minus and then a parentheses minus, it becomes a positive. So you can rewrite this as negative 6 plus 3. Okay. Now you may do the money scenario. You owe someone $6, or you owe the creditor $6, but you only have $3 of your own money in your bank account, right? So you're still definitely going to be in the negative, right? You owe someone $6, but you'll have only $3 in your bank account. So you're still going to be negative, and it's just going to be negative 30. Okay. Okay, question 6, we have a -4 and a -7. So don't be don't be fooled. This is not the same thing. So this is not the same thing as -4 minus 7, right? Don't be fooled. So just do the money scenario. You have a -4 and a -7. You could also think of this as -4 plus -7. I don't know if that would confuse you anymore, but yes, you definitely can write it like this if it doesn't confuse you. But we say that a minus means you owe, positive means that's how much you have. So you owe someone, or you owe a creditor $4, and then you owe someone or a creditor another $7, right? You don't have any of your own money, like you don't have any of your deposits, so you owe in total of negative 8, 10, negative 11, right? So you owe a creditor $4, you owe another creditor $7, so you owe in total negative 11. There you go. Okay. Question 7, -3 times -7. That is multiplication, and we said that in your notes. A negative times a negative is positive. So you don't do the money scenario, you just follow the rules. A negative times a negative is a positive, so that is going to be positive 21. This one, I think you might have to use a little bit of a calculator, but you must know the correct sign. You could put this exactly on the calculator, but we have three things that are multiplying, not two. So let's look at the first one. You have a negative number times another negative number. So what happens? So I'm just looking at these two numbers, right? Um, what's a negative times a negative? Positive. And then just put that in the calculator. 2.4 times what now? Is 7.4. Okay. And then the times this number, so this is positive, so you don't have to put the positive. If it's positive, you don't have to put the plus. So 7.44 times negative 5.6, right? So now what is the rule? You have a positive times a negative. What is the outcome? Negative, right? Positive times negative is a negative. And what's 7.44 times negative 5.6? Negative 41.664. And it looks like they round to the nearest 10. Look at all the choices. They round to the nearest 10. They'll tell you if you need to round, but yeah, we round to the nearest 10. So tenth is a six. You look at the neighbor. If it's five or beyond, you do round. Six is definitely five and beyond. You do got it round 41.7. There you go. They're very easy. Oops, almost said A, but it's actually okay. This one, -8 divided by 3, it's obviously not perfect, but what is this sign? So if you go back to your rules, we have a negative divided by a positive, right? So the rule states if you have a negative divided by positive, the outcome is negative. So your answer will be negative, so you can forget about A, you forget about C. And then you can put this in the calculator or you can do it the long way. 8 goes inside and then 3 goes outside, right? What's how many times does 3 go into 8? At least twice. So that's 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. Decimal. Bring down the 0. How many times does 3 go into 20? About 6. And then 6 times 3 is 18. 20 minus 8 is 2. Bring down this invisible 0. And then I think it's going to repeat. So we can stop here. So that would be another 6, right? It's 2.66. And I believe, oh, it's going to be negative 2.66 because we said a negative divided by a positive is negative. So the correct answer shall be D because it's going to keep on going to 6 and 6. So yeah, it's going to be, if they round it to two decimal place, 6 is the second decimal place. Look at the neighbor, it's 5 beyond, so it's negative 2.67. Okay, letter D. Okay, a negative divided by a negative. So you have a negative divided by a negative. What is the rule? Well, we said that a negative divided by negative. Yes. So you could put that in calculator. So, or you could do the box thing. So 20 goes inside the box, 2 goes outside. How many times does 2 go into 20? Comes out nicely as 10. So your final answer is positive 10. Okay, let me check my work real quick. Yeah, it's good to check my work. Because even I make mistakes. Yes, we got perfect, right? Okay. So this is GED dealing with negative numbers. So I hope you wrote down the rules because they will come up again. So yeah, I'm gonna stop here.